I forgot to take out the trash.
Wow.
So I came back up here like at 11 o'clock at night and took my trash out of that bucket and put it in the hall, which is too late. I mean, they've already cleaned the building, but in my dream, that's what happened.
Right.
So I'm caught on the video. I mean, the card, it swipes, it's me. They know I'm here at 11 o'clock at night. And then somehow during the night, the school burns down.
Wow.
And I'm thinking,
Oh goodness.
oh goodness, they're going to think I did it. And the fire marshal comes out here and it says, well, it looks like it started in this area right here. And I'm thinking, and then I wake up, but I'm thinking, I'm fixing to go to jail. And all I did was take the trash out. I hope that's not an omen.
That is funny.
Last night, y'all did the Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation.
Yes.
And there are some key things that you're going to have to explain to me on the test. Now, we'll get to the Declaration of Independence in a minute. We'll do the Articles first. Did y'all revise your work after you saw last night's video? Or read? Oh. Okay. So do we have this out here? Articles of Confederation, one things that we need to know, and you can be writing in red, is it is the first written form of government for the United States of America. Okay, the first. It only hung around 10 years. Okay, it was not very good, was it? In fact, it was bad. It was really bad. All right, so the weaknesses far outnumber the strengths. Now, how many just put 2 weaknesses? Huh?
Oh, was this for homework?
Huh?
No, we did do that.
I think that's AP Gov.
Last night we had
For Pete's sakes, this is
Section 3.
section 3.
We did section
Well,
1.
section 2.
Okay. So I'm giving y'all. I think
Trying to get the answers.
keep those up there. Well, we'll talk about that one in just a minute. All right, let's go. Let's go. What happened to you? I closed you out. I don't mean to close you out. I meant to go visit.
What?
So y'all did section 2.
Yes, sir. It was only one. It was only two. It's only 17. This one. It's only 17 vocab words.
Let me see what y'all have for homework. Read section 2, section 3 of chapter 2. Complete the common lit. Okay, so I changed it. All right, so on chapter 2, section 1. All right, this was. You can turn the lights back on because we need to be right in red. I need to see this thing.
Oh wow!
Y'all were to do a timeline, and it was to end with the Declaration of Independence. So, what are some of the key things that happened that was stepping stones to the Declaration of Independence? The Stamp Act. Now, you could have had the Sugar Act on there, but the Stamp Act is what you needed to have. Stamp Act. Have that, you have to check. First of all, do you have your name, first and last name on the paper? Give yourself a check. Do you have that this is out of chapter 2, section 2? Okay, that's a check. So now we're up to 3 checks, and we've only answered 1 question. This is pretty cool. All right. What is the next major thing that will lead to the separation? Yes, ma'am.
put the French and Indian War?
French and Indian War will work because that's going to lead to, technically, French and Indian War leads to those direct taxes. Then what's the next thing? What is the next thing, Noah? We're on this timeline. The Continental Congress. The first one. But specifically, what other action is lead? Listen, let me read the question again. In the graph, similar to the one, identify the series of events that led to the colonies to declare their independence. No. Did anybody put the passage of the Townshend Acts? The Tea Act? The Tea Party, okay. What did you put on there?
Oh, I can't find my sheets.
You're supposed to be writing it in red, Trace. You're turning it in, you can't turn it in black. That's saying that I did this at home. Mr. Crooks.
I said the emergence of George III.
Too broad. Darcy. What's been said? Ah, yeah, we need to get them the coercive acts. The coercive acts. What else? What'd you put, Trace? You didn't do it. I mean, Jace. Huh?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Peyton, you do, don't you?
The Intolerable Act.
That's the coercive acts, same thing. All right, those should definitely be on there, so check if you have them, okay? The Tea Act needed to be on there for sure, okay? The Tea Act, because that's gonna lead to the Boston Tea Party, that's gonna heighten the tensions, that's gonna lead to the coercive acts. The Townshend Acts needed to be on there. All right, and then I'll give one check for the formation of the Continental Congress. Okay. All right. Anybody have some questions about that? All right, let's move to what actions did King George take to make the Americans pay for the French and Indian War? This is repetitive. What did he do? He began to impose taxes, didn't he? Began to impose taxes. So let's say the Townshend Acts and the Stamp Act, okay, for sure on that. Now, why did Jefferson's, this relates to what you did last night, but in your reading, why did Thomas Jefferson's principles and ideas in the Declaration of Independence support separation from Great Britain?
Hey, Mr. Bill,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but is Trevor Crooks in there?
Yeah, I have everybody. I forgot.
Oh, you're fine. Trevor, your car is running.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like to go turn, you can go turn it off.
Sit right there.
I would.
Zach. Zach, what? Slide has her.
I think he's like doing.
I'll be right back.
All right. Let the car run.
Somebody calls that. We'll go to class first, probably. No one cares what little keys do. You know how Central Sapphire is. We're the same shirt every day. Same three shirts.
I'll agree with him.
Getting how essential he is to the team.
Someone calls, I can tell.
Okay. Now let's get to number 5. Guys, that should roll off somebody's tongue as quickly as it did after yesterday's going through this. What were the ideas and principles of the Declaration of Independence that supports, and since there's ideas that I'm looking for too, in the Declaration of Independence that support separation?
Hey, man.
You were selling bracelets to the little kids.
Remember you with ice bath.
Okay.
Miss Stokes knows I was here though.
Miss Herring, please answer that. Liberty and equality. You got to extend that. Okay.
My car was off.
You just want the break.
What do you have, Miss Thurn?
That King George III had not upheld his duty to protect the American colonists' right to life, liberty, and property.
King George had violated the rights. Now you'll get a half a check there, Miss Herring, because you've got to extend those answers. The king is violating the right. We're checking the homework. Chapter 2, section 1.
I thought I checked that yesterday.
No, we didn't. Got it out. We didn't get it checked. That's reason number 1. The king was violating our, did you say natural rights? Yeah, basically our natural rights. What does that violate? The social contract. Who in the world came up with that idea? John Locke. Okay. All right. They have violated our natural rights. Is there any other thing on there? Ms. Herring has a half a check for the second thing. We weren't being treated as equals, were we? What was the second thing that you had there?
I said we should have a voice in government.
Yes, we had no voice in Parliament. I like that. What else did you put?
I did chapter 1, section 2 instead of chapter 2, section 2. Out of my car.
Is that what you did?
No, I took it out of my house because I thought we were done with it. I thought we had already checked it yesterday.
No, because all we got to do was talk about this, and we went through the different things, and then the bell rung. We did that. Okay. Anybody have another one there? Don't just give yourself 2 checks. Darcy, what do you have? Just the one? Ogden, what's going on with you back there? Okay. Yes, sir, Trey.
What are we supposed to have to check for the last one? Because I think I missed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The King George is violating, is denying them their natural rights.
Is this for number 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what else do you have?
I said that, and then that like we had no voice in the other one.
Okay. All right. Those 2 are what I was hoping you'd get. All right. Quit. Okay. Now count the number of checks that you have, not what your neighbor has. Put that at the top. We're gonna hand it in.
Mr. Bill?
Yeah.
Can I do like the actual right one over the weekend and turn it in on Monday? I still did it. It was just my one.
Yes, sir. Man. Ready? Huh?
How many checks was that?
Number 4 is tell me what you have. It says actions. So I'm looking for at least 2. So if you just put 1, yeah. What did you put? Did you put more than 1? Okay. Well, tell me what they are.
He imposed unfair taxes to help pay for the French and Indian War, and then he passed
That's a
the
check.
Tea Act,
Tea Act.
the Intolerable Act.
Okay.
And
You got 2
After
extra checks. Okay. All right. Now count the number of checks you have. It's in there.
Where we were checking, we had to write down every single one of the.
No, you didn't have to write them all.
Okay, I just wrote down
Here's
like.
what. Here is what I'm getting away from. Okay. I want those answers incorporated. The questions incorporated in there, because when I give you this back, all you need to do is study this sheet. Okay.
I remember.
I am notorious for pulling the exact question out as a short answer response on this thing, especially if it's something as significant as the basic principles put forth in the Declaration of Independence is that government should be limited, that we have God-given natural rights, that we have equality. Okay, I'll stop the giggling and stuff. Sounds like a bunch of hens going into roost in the evening time. And if y'all haven't had chickens, you aren't here. Okay. Probably there is an app for that. So we have the right to rebel because they've made all that. And we have stated that there's grievances. Isn't that what the Declaration did? He stated that, look, we've tried to do this peacefully and you have ignored us. So what is the option left to do?
It's time to split.
It's time to do it because you've broken the contract.
Yep.
Thank you. Half credit. Grace. Okay.
So,
That'll be good.
okay.
Y'all sell cookie dough. So, best question. Now we're back to that. Best question. What did the Declaration do? I thought we'd done this before. I guess I did this with my own people. What did the Declaration of Independence do?
Stated while we were trying to split.
Okay, it listed all the grievances, all the reasons why we think we should separate from you. Okay, it listed all of them. I think there's 15 of things that Great Britain did to the American colonies that they don't do anywhere else, that may violate our natural rights. Certainly, guys, they passed writs of assistance. And so, I don't like that white family. They're doing pretty good, and I'm not sure they're paying all of their taxes. So I'm going down here to the governor's office, and we're going to come back to the White House, and we're going to come into your house and ransack that, and we may demolish it, looking for goods that you have not paid taxes on. We got the Stamp Act, and if you've got a deed there and there's no tax on it, we're gonna take you to jail. Can we violate the privacy of one's home? We hadn't been doing that. We didn't do that in England. We had a regular process to do it. The right to self-government, all of those things in the Intolerable Acts, they were taken away. All right. So it identifies grievances. This number two, this justifies separation of Great Britain. And y'all write in all capital letters. It does not create a national government for the United States. It declares independence. It does not establish a government. It does not establish a government. But the second point, the third or fourth point, it does establish some governmental principles. What are those? Y'all read about them last night. What are some governmental principles that he's going to state that any sovereign nation should have?
They should have their natural rights.
They should have the protection of their natural rights. They should have what? That all men are created equal. Equality. Okay. And guys, he picks up Locke's thing. We have the right to separate ourselves and establish a government that will. So that's based upon the setting up a government that is based upon the consent of the governed, the consent of its citizens. So who has the power in a democracy? Where does the power rest in a democracy? In the hands of the people. Guys, this is a holy experiment. Nowhere in our history had any country, had any colony broke away successfully from the mother country and established a government based upon the will of the people. Oh, we had a little bit of experiment with democracy in the Athenian city-states, didn't we? And we had the Roman Senate, and it was supposed to be somewhat supported by them. How long did they last? Well, the Roman Empire lasted what? From the time of Jesus to 450 AD. So that's been around a lot longer than we have had. Not really when you look at our colonial past now, but well, maybe. It didn't stick around too long. But there's something that made ours successful. It's that fundamental idea of government based upon the consent of the governed. Revolutionary. It's a holy experiment, because we're going to see all of this knit together. Okay. Let me go to questions, comments, or concerns. Here's the intolerable acts, colonial response, the shot heard around the world. Yeah, I got this new one here. It looks like it's the same length. We're going to look at why this happened. There's no sound reason why these colonists, you would know it. You would know it. Oh, it's going to do it this time. Nope. History. All right, guys, I'm YouTube. I just did that one. So I'm looking for YouTube yesterday. The last YouTube video that I watched. The Crash Course, that's the one we watched. The Tom Brokaw thing. Well, let's see here. Let's go to YouTube and see if it still has it. I wanted you to hear this. I mean, this just, well, and I want to get outside of my worship thing. So how do I find out what I watched?
Library.
Have y'all heard of this Victory Boyd? He's pretty good. Yeah. Mhm. Well, shuckins. We'll skip that because I want to get to our video. Okay. All right, guys. This tree goes through all of the major things of the Civil War. It really was the first Civil War because we are breaking away from the mother country, and the South was breaking away from the United States. So, but we'll win our independence, and that thing was. We were always outnumbered in troops. We were always outmunitioned. Benjamin Franklin spent most of the war in France, encouraging France to get involved in the war. He recruited a few people to go help George Washington to come over and help train men and lead men. A young teenage boy named Marquis de Lafayette, he becomes one of George Washington's right hand, and Baron von Steuben, a gay guy from Germany, comes and teaches these men at Valley Forge how to fire a gun, how to stand in formation, how to not eat after they have gone to the toilet without washing their hands, just basic health things to keep the army healthy. That was invaluable to George Washington. And so we're going to get some leaders to come, but then we'll win the Battle of Saratoga. And none of this part's on the test. We're going to win the Battle of Saratoga up there in New York. And Benjamin Franklin is going to convince France that we could win if they would help us. And Spain looked at that and said, these boys might win if they help us. We're in control of Florida, and we have control of the Mississippi River. So, the mouth of the Mississippi River, and it might be to our advantage for Great Britain to lose. So they, Valdez starts doing some military maneuvers down there to protect us from the British coming up from our behind, and lo and behold, we're going to get Cornwallis trapped at Yorktown. And I am sorry about doing the Frenching anymore the American Revolutionary War so fast. But before it's over, 9 months before it's over, we create the first government of the United States. That's what y'all did for me last night. It didn't last too long. Well, that should be 1780. Well, 1790s when the new government kicks in there. But 1789 is when we have our first elections. But guys, it was only a loose union. A league of friendship might have been a better word for it. It was a contract between these states, not so united. Zach. It creates a Congress. We call that Parliament back in England, don't we? But it's not a two-house, is it? It's a unicameral legislature. Did it have much power? No, it did not. Equal representation of the states. Now think about that. You got Rhode Island with about 60,000 people. You have Virginia with over 1.5 million white people. Okay. You have Massachusetts with over 1 million and New York with over 1.5 million people. And you have Rhode Island with 1. Equal representation in states. Is that fair? The 60,000 in Rhode Island has equal say in the government as the 1.5 million in New York? No. Okay. It was hard to make laws. It took 9 out of 13 to agree on a law. And guys, if they wanted to change and strengthen it, it took unanimous consent. If I were going to take y'all all for breakfast right now, and we had to come up with the unanimous consent of where to go eat, including me, we couldn't get it done. Because some of y'all would want to go to Chick-fil-A. Who wants to eat chicken for breakfast? Weirdos. Okay. So I veto that. What about Burger King? No, let's don't do business with Burger King. They're too left. They want you to enjoy the fact that the eggs that you eat there were laid by chickens that had free range. They're not up in a coop, because a chicken has a soul and a quality of life that we need to preserve. Oh, Father of the earth, not Father God, but Father Earth, we're going to bless you and worship the things that you've given us, like trees and snail darters and chickens. Not me. I hadn't eaten at Burger King since 2015. And you know what? If I live to be 105, I will never eat a Burger King. Okay. So how many of us going to McDonald's?
They probably do it.
Pretty good. I'd go there.
The grilled frappe?
Like
Guys, it was almost an impossible document. And when we look at the weaknesses of it, well, let's talk about its achievements first. It did conclude, that's a good negative multiple choice question on the test. It did conclude the war with the Treaty of Paris. Okay, the Treaty of Paris, 1783, or Peace of Paris, whatever you want to call it. I learned it in history as the Peace of Paris in southeastern Oklahoma. They know what they're doing down there. Guys, its success is what it did on Western lands. The ordinance of 1785, and you can put land ordinance of 1785 the way your book has it, I think. And the Northwest Land Ordinance of 1787 were premier pieces of legislation. 1785, how many of y'all have flown over, and let's just say the Midwest or the northeast part of the United States and looked out the window? Nobody has. You have. What did you see?
Like flying.
Yeah, like flying. And when you look down at the ground, what did you see? Not specifically like windmills and houses, but
Like a bunch of nothing.
a bunch of nothing. But did you see where the land, it looked like a bunch of squares, a checkerboard?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, guys, the reason it does is because of this right here. The national government under the Articles set it up because they owed land to the soldiers. They promised that they would give them land in the West, and there were settlers waiting to move west of the Appalachian Mountains. And so the ordinance of 1785 said, okay, we're going to get prepared for that. So we're going to go out and survey this land. It's owned by the government because that was part of the deal to get the Articles of Confederation. The large states had to give up their land west of the Appalachian Mountains, except for Pennsylvania. She had already settled that. And that was going to be federal land. That's the only way the government could make money is by selling that land and imposing tariffs. No, they couldn't even do that. No, I strike that. They couldn't do that. All right. And so now they can sell land and have revenue. Now settlers are starting to pour. I love this part of history. This is 9 hours in Western expansion. But now they're going to be making treaties with Indians. Whites are going to be coming in and settling on this new purchased land from the Indians. And when they got to the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, it says that when 5,000 people enter a territory, they can apply to Congress for to have a territorial legislature. And they get a governor and they get judges. What's happening? Now government is coming in. When they get 60,000, you're not going to have to give me these details, but when they get 60,000 people, they write a constitution and ask Congress to approve of that constitution and admit them as a state. We follow this all the way through us getting the 50 states, with one exception. What state do you think would be an exception? She's always an exception. Louisiana. We were so insistent. They were so persistent because they did not have 60,000 white folks in Louisiana when it was there, but it controlled the Mississippi River, the mouth of the Mississippi River. So it was so important to get her in there. So we're always the exception. Now, all the inherent weaknesses of the Articles, and this is what we're about to see how this gets worked out. Congress could not tax She did not have the power to tax. Okay, well, I guess I do want to use you. She did not have the power to tax. Not power tax. It could not tax. It could not even settle disputes between the states. Do you think these 13 states really liked one another? Do you reckon that when the war was won, the things that united them was pretty much gone? Because, guys, they set this up. They set this up that all of the power, enforcement power, was in the states. So if the Continental Congress passed a law and the governor of Massachusetts said, we're not going to enforce that in our state, it wasn't enforced. They could not even enforce the laws. They did not have a judiciary nor an executive. Okay? Well, I've got that. They didn't have the states to enforce the national law, so they didn't have an executive. All right, they just didn't have any power at all. And then there's things that starts happening, courthouses being burned. But we have a real nice little rebellion up here in Massachusetts. Daniel Shea. Now, this is a test question. There's 3 or 4 test questions here. Daniel Shea leads a rebellion because what is happening is some of these farmers in all the 13 colonies, but particularly here in the Northeast, they were gone away for 7 years from their families. Oh, George, what they would AWOL and go back and harvest a crop with their wives, but really the wives and the children managed the homes. Things got tough because sometimes the guy couldn't go home and help with the harvest, or maybe the market wasn't very good. They got behind on their taxes. The law was, get behind on your taxes, we can condemn the property and sell it and get the government's money. That still happens today. Any of you people in the real estate business may have bought a house that way or some property that way for taxes. Pretty good deal. I bought a house that way. Now, those farmers, we're fixing to lose everything. And they rebel against the government of Massachusetts. Okay? They rebel. And this gets spread out through the colonies. It brings up to light the government cannot even maintain order. The government cannot maintain order. And people begin to talk. Wise men like Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, Edmund Randolph, George Mason, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin. People throughout the 13 colonies said, look, we did the articles. They were good for the time that they were. But it's not a form of government that's going to help us prosper as a nation. In fact, it's going to divide us. And we can probably split up into a continent, a bunch of nations like Western Europe, always competing with one another, always fighting with one another, and we'll lose our liberty. Now, are we going to do that? Well, guys, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison calls for a meeting in Albany to discuss improving the articles. Very few people showed up. And they said, we got to do something about this. We got to meet next year in Philadelphia. And we've got to encourage our state legislatures who had all the power. We've got to encourage them that we need to strengthen the national government, not dissolve the state government, strengthen the national government so it can do some things. You guys, there was one young 32-year-old, James Madison. He goes to Philadelphia about 6 weeks earlier than the rest of the delegates. And he holds up in a hotel room and he is reading books. Oh, Thomas Jefferson loved books. He sent us some of his books for him to read, like Spirit of the Laws by Louis Montesquieu, like the Wealth of Nations, Two Treatises of Government by John Locke. He read Roman history. He read Greek history. He looked at all the nations that had formed republics that failed. And he had to come up with something that was going to work. And so let's go now back in time to Philadelphia. What did I do with that DVD? Here it is. And I've debated the last 2 mornings on the bus that, do we want to take time to show this? And I do. My kids every year love it. And this was done by the Mormons, Brigham Young University, in 1976 on the bicentennial of this. It caught my eye because it is so well researched. One of my favorite historians and one of the best to ever analyze the notes of James Madison and the other delegates there, to put a story together on how intense these arguments were and how much of the founding ideas of our government are knitted together through compromise. Nobody has done it better than her. And she was a historian in her prime in the 1950s. Okay, yes, I want to see it. No, I don't want to do it. Yes, I do, I guess. All right. Yeah. I'm going to cancel all this. I don't have any of that. All right, here we go. I need to give you something. This DRA is on chapter, and we did 3 with the two common lists. This right here, this is extremely important. This video will help you get answers in reading chapter 2, section 4. And when we get done with this, we're going to be ready to test, guys. So here we go. There's some extras, and we'll give them to Mr. Ogden. But this will not be nap time, guys, because I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to post some questions on the classroom, or it'll be the bell ringer tomorrow. And they are working.
I ain't gonna be here tomorrow.
I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Well, y'all know what.
I will.
Okay, so there's Mr. Madison. He's, like I said, he's there 6 weeks earlier than the rest of them. Let's get a feel for him because he's probably one of the greatest of the founding fathers.
Open it up.
That's too loud.
God bless you, Mr. Jefferson. United by the war against Great Britain, the states are now deeply divided over matters of policy and commerce. The state pursues its own destiny, which weakens our trade abroad and home. Unless a means can be found to unite the states, I fear the worst for my country. Its life may be as the flame of a candle, bright but brief.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
That's what I said, and that's the price.
That's flat robbery. It's even more than you wrote in your letter.
Sorry, Squire. And you'll have to put the price down on your tobacco and grain because the tariff's going up again.
I won't do it. And I won't pay your price for this lot either. Take it back.
I have here a resolution to the United States Congress of Confederation, the power finally to regulate the trade of this country.
Not again, Mr. Madison.
Yes, again, Mr. Lee.
All those in this House know you wish to strip Virginia of her God-endowed right to regulate.
Does not regulate her trade, sir, nor does any other state in the Union. Great Britain controls it. Go down to the docks and see for yourself.
Indeed. We charge the British nothing for the privilege of trading with us. Meanwhile, they charge us huge tariffs. If the British regulate our trade abroad, Mr. Mason, let us, by all means, restrict theirs here. But as Virginians, let us not empower Congress to join us with avaricious New Englanders.
Our southern state governments, indeed the state houses in every corner of the Union, reek with corruption. The result is every day weaker. Her borders threatened by Spain to the west, Great Britain to the north. Can't you see, Mr. Lee? The glory of the revolution is being blasted. The states must renounce their jealousies and give some power to a national government. Otherwise, America.
So, Mr. Madison, you may speechify as long as you like about a national government and America. We here in the House of Delegates are Virginians. First, last, and always.
States together to talk outside the legislatures. About what? We'll talk about trade, about laws. Honest, influential men. Dr. Franklin, and yourself, sir. I have the greatest admiration for your writing Virginia's Constitution and her Declaration of Rights.
cause, sir. But the indispensable friend is General Washington. As he goes, so goes America.
Yes, sir, and we must get him. Unless our national government is strengthened, the states will soon turn to the sword to resolve their separate jealousies. Think of it. Standing armies in every state, and each state the sport of foreign powers setting the people against one another, back to the Dark Ages.
You sound like John Adams.
Do I? Perhaps we need Mr. Adams back here from London. He could wake us up.
Trying to wake up the British ministry.
That's John Adams right there. We're picking up with John. You remember that? Trey, with John Adams. Yeah.
Secretary.
Minute number 6.
Mr. Adams.
Minute number 6.